What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. So today we're doing something a little bit differently than we usually do on the channel. You usually guys see me do wrestling content, but I'm switching it up for today. I know I do this. I'm gonna try to do this maybe every once in a blue moon, but I maybe try to bring it a little bit more frequent depending on what the idea is and stuff like that. But today, long story short, we're gonna be reviewing a horror movie today, you guys. We're going all the way back into 2001, and today we are reviewing the Jeepers Creepers original movie from 2001, starring Gina Phillips and Justin Long in this movie, and Jonathan Breck and Patricia Belcher, just to name a few of the names that's going to be in the movie. We're going to be pretty much reviewing it, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on it at the end of the video, and pretty much what I think could have been better in the movie, or whatever the case is. But no, that's long story short. If you guys haven't seen the movie, though, I suggest you guys click off the video. I do not want to spoil this movie for you guys who have maybe not seen it just yet. So go and watch it and then come back to this video. But so we kick off and on an open road. We see a car pretty much approaching. It's pretty much inside the pretty much the main characters of this movie. We are introduced to two siblings named Trish and Derry. They're pretty much on their way home, going to see their mom from a spring break. But at some point, they're pretty much playing a game. They're also, on top of that, why did they say Trish was telling Derry that was a stop sign when, if you pay attention to the movie very closely, there was no stop sign? So I don't know what the script was supposed to be alluding to there, but there was no stop sign at all. Maybe I'm tripping, but if you guys seen the movie, let me know if you guys seen the stop sign, because I clearly did not see a stop sign at all. But anyways, they're playing a game, pretty much looking at the license plates and stuff like that. Pretty much Darius saying, oh, that's gay fever or gay forever. And then pretty much Trish corrects him and pretty much says, no, that's not gay fever, that's sexy forever, and that's mine, that's 5'2". And then pretty much they end up being catching up to a RV, and pretty much it's a couple. They turning off the road. Looks like they're going camping or something like that. Not too sure what they were gonna go do, but that's neither here or there. But then they are literally tailed by a beat up old truck. And that's trying to run them off the road. Pretty much, it's very intense. The scene and the vibe is also intense as well. Trish is telling Derry to let him pass, but literally as soon as Derry tries to go from one side of the road to the other, the truck is following them still, and the van ends up pretty much finally passing them up, and then pretty much they end up Derry just screams out to the top of his lung, inbreeding and stuff like that. That's kind of crazy. That's a crazy line if you ask me. And then they pretty much try to figure out what the name of the license plate means. Now, if you guys don't know what it means, it's BEATNGU, beating you. But if you pay attention, it's B eating you. But I don't think people really pay too much attention to it. I think maybe a lot of people still call it the beating you. But if you pay attention very, very closely, it's B eating you. It's crazy to think that's a name of a license plate. Okay, that's a very interesting name for a license plate. Anyways, they finally end up passing the truck once again as they're passing up their a church where it looks like, and it's dumping a body wrapped in a sheet. And then you have the twins having a dialogue with each other while passing up, and there says it's wrapped and roped in a sheet, and then pretty much Trish says wrapped and roped in a sheet with red stains on it. Then they're pretty much trying to proceed to call 911 while the whatever the thing is, the person sees them and is proceeding to get back in his truck to hightail and get back over to them. And we get in another attack scene. And this time the creeper, I don't want to say too much about it, but the human being, because at this point we don't know what it is, pretty much runs them off the road and proceeds to keep going. That's very interesting. The fact that you have whoever the villain is runs them off the road but keeps going. We don't really see that a lot in horror movies nowadays, where you see the villain run you off the road and keep going. Usually a lot of the times, if they run you off the road, they proceed to come back and get you then and there. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air to see something as a dynamic that happens like that. Then we see pretty much while they're trying to repair the truck, because it was bent up a little bit, Derry just makes the stupidest decision in all of horror movies. Like, he says, let's go back. My thing is this: when you are getting ran off the road by somebody, and you see them dumping bodies, Why would you go investigate? Why? There's no reason to investigate. Just go to the police and let them handle it. It's simple as day. We could have been through with the movie in like within an hour at best, but you decided to go back for what? For what? Trish is pretty much making the most sense in the world. Why would we go back? And then Derry has to pull his sister's strings and says, "What if it was you back there?" And I get it, but still, you don't need to go back. And this proceeds to be the most crucial mistake in the movie. If you pay attention to the rest of the review, like this is going to be very crucial for the plot of the movie. So they end up going back. We see a whole bunch of crows and ravens all over the church and stuff like that. It's abandoned, as you guys can see. Then we see those two. They pretty much go out. Trish and Derek get out the car. Pretty much go over to the draining where the bodies were pretty much thrown down. And then Derek pretty much tells her to get a flashlight. He looks down there. He yells out hello. For the first few times, nothing happens. But then as he walks away, you hear a voice saying help. And then Derek comes back, and then I think he hears it again. And pretty much Derek tells Trish, hold him by his feet. And pretty much then as he's looking further down, he says he sees something. But it turns out it was a bunch of rats. Therefore, there's a struggle between both Derry and Trish. Trish ends up letting Derek go into the draining pipe. And then there goes Derek going down the draining pipe pretty much without a way to escape. Then pretty much Trish apologizes for letting that happen. Then his shoe comes off. He's pretty much having a whole dialogue and scene with him tying his shoe. That was kind of very interesting. Neither here or there. But then we see the camera pan out a little bit, and you see a body wrapped up in a sheet. And then Dave proceeds to go over to it, and then what do we see? I think the body grabs Dave by the leg, and then therefore he backs away for a split second, but then he pretty much tries to open it, and he does, and it's somebody that looks like they're on the way out at that point. The way the makeup effects looked was really cool, but this man's body was stitched up. It looked like his chest or his torso was stitched up. It was very gruesome. It was a very gruesome scene. Then on top of that, we also see none other than him pretty much look at other bodies that's on the floor, and then he proceeds to tie his shoe again, and then something drips on his shoe. And then he looks up. The whole ceiling is plastered with bodies all across the wall and ceiling. Look, like Darius said later on in the movie, a psycho version of the Sistine Chapel. That's exactly what that was. Then he finds his way out. He sees Kenny and Darla, they were talking about earlier on and having a dialogue about, because pretty much Trish says they never found the car, and then Darius says they never found her head. They found the car, but not her head. So apparently, these two had disappeared years and years ago before Trish and Darius before this plot even happened. So the fact that they found them in that basement, and you can see how literally distraught and taken back Derek was by seeing that. Then he finds his way out while it looks like she sees the truck again. But they did something really interesting. They made it look like it's the truck because of the front part of the truck and whatnot. But then as you see the camera pan, it's not the truck. It's just somebody else with a bunch of hay on the back of their truck. And then boom, Derek just comes storming back, and the way they did that, it was a crazy instant jump scare. Then we pan into them leaving the church, going to potentially get help. No, we'll actually go get gas, I would say. Then they see the truck going back to the church, and then Trish tells Derry it's going back. So they go in to try to get help. They end up seeing a bunch of people. They said we need help, and I understand why people are just looking at them crazy when they just said they need help. Then one of the workers there says, we need the police. She said the police. You said, and then Trish says we need help now. So they pretty much go over and call the police. The police arrive and everything like that. But before that, they end up getting a a phone call and from a woman, and she says, "Derry, I seen you with a lot of cats." And then Trish pretty much proceeds to say, "How do you know Derry?" And then pretty much the person on the phone tells Derry, "Do you know the cats I'm talking about?" She says, "You have a bloody hand, right, and a torn shirt and a rose tattoo above your stomach," making it very interesting because, like, how does this person know all this? So I guess this person is pretty much like a psychiatric person, or just knows a lot of stuff, or could tell the future, or fortune teller, whatever you may want to call it. But she says, "You found its house of pain. Those bodies down there, that's what it likes to call it, house of pain." And then she says, "I don't know if it's a demon or a devil or just some hungry thing from a dark place in time." Then pretty much Darius trying to figure out what is she talking about, what is she alluding to. And then she says, once it has the scent for something it likes, it can't stop. And then pretty much Darius just still kind of like, what is she talking about? Then she puts on a song that says Jeepers Creepers. And then the woman on the phone says, "If you hear that song, you run, because that means something terrible is about to happen." So pretty much he doesn't really take heed of that warning whatsoever. But then we see the police arrive and everything like that. Pretty much Darius telling the police what he saw, but the police is kind of really not really believing him too much or anything like that. Then a woman comes in. She says, "Is that your car out there?" And then they walk out, and then the car and their whole car has been ransacked and everything like that. Look like clothes everywhere and stuff like that. And then the woman says, "There was a man at your car. He was standing in that car sniffing in that laundry, and it looks like he was liking it for whatever reason." Then Derek picks up his tidy whities with his name on it. I don't know why you have to have tidy whities for one and name on it for another thing. I get it. It's 2001, so I get that pretty much tidy whities is probably still a big thing, kind of. But having your name on it is just crazy, if you ask me. It's wild. But then we move on, and then they're getting a police escort out of town, and then they're pretty much listening to music, talking and stuff like that. Trish and Derry, and then they're just Derry's changing the radio, and then he hears the Jeepers Creepers song, but it's a remix to the one that we heard earlier in the movie from the woman over the phone. Pretty much, Derry says that's the song that the woman played over the phone, and then somebody, and one of the police officers is telling the other two that are escorting Trish and Derry out of town that the church is on fire. And then we also hear a boom on top of their car, and if you pan back while Trish and Derry are arguing while the song is playing, we see a figure on top of their car, and then pretty much the police officer says the sky is falling. Then the female officer looks out, and gets out of the window and looks up, and then whatever the thing is picks her up and drags her out. But the person is very strong. The fact that you can literally go through a whole car and literally pick somebody up, and he pretty much uses his hatchet and pretty much proceeds to behead them, and then throw the head over to where Trish and Derry are, which is in front of them. Then you have like a little bit of a stoppage right there, and then pretty much Trish and Derry trying to figure out what's going on. They step out the car. Trish proceeds to go towards the police vehicle, but Derry stays back. He looks down and he sees blood on top of the car, meaning something is going on. Derry is pretty much telling Trish, "We need to leave. Something's not right." Trish proceeds to go towards the van, like I said, but then she sees a head in front of it, so that makes her go back to the car, and then the figure, we start to see a little bit more of the figure, because at this point they were kind of just hidden throughout the movie. We didn't start to see what this figure is until towards the end of the movie, which I like. I like how they went with having a character or a villain be used in a way like that, where we don't really see them throughout the movie until towards the end. Then we also see none other than the figure pick up the head and then start sniffing, and it proceeds to tongue the figure. I understand that's very weird even for me to say, but that's exactly what happened. And proceeds to chew out the officer's tongue, and they proceed to leave, but they end up stopping at another woman's house, and they proceed to stop there. And it was very creepy from the get-go, because there was a lot of cats, and it makes me start to believe maybe everything that this woman is saying is gonna happen. So pretty much they get to the woman's house. They pretty much said, we need to call the police. She says she doesn't have one. Then they start to hear some weird noises, and the woman looks out, and she says, do you guys have anyone else with you? They turn around, and then there's the person, the thing literally sitting out by their scarecrow in front of it, which is an interesting shot. And then the woman says, that's not my scarecrow. She comes out with a double shotty. She says, you need to get out of here because I'm not afraid to shoot. And I like this because they made her look like yeah, she's that person like you don't want to mess with. But unfortunately, it didn't end well for her. But anyways, still, the person ends up charging. She shoots it, but then it looks like it lands on top of their house. So I was kind of confused by that. Did it like jump, or does it have superpowers, or whatever the case may be? But I was like surprised because I'm like, she literally hit it. So how is it all the way in the house? And it crashed, looked like it crashed through the roof. You hear a whole bunch of the cats pretty much screaming and whatnot. They're coming out the house. And then Darius telling the woman, you need to come with us. And she says, what did you bring into my house? And then she proceeds to hit the man in the nuts with the shotty. That's a very hurtful scene. You're probably going to need some ice pack for sure. But then they end up waiting for the woman. It looks like she goes in. It looks like for a split second that she actually gets the job done. But you see her in the as well a couple of seconds later after the shots rang off. She's in the house, but she's very still. And then the camera starts to pan on her specifically, coming close to the camera. And it looks like something's not right. Then they pan again towards the bottom half of her body, where it looks like the person is carrying her, using her almost like a ventriloquist dummy or something like that. And then you can see the woman groaning, and I think at this point the siblings know something is not right. Then the camera pans again. The woman is sliding left of the camera. Then we finally see what the actual, person or the overall villain of the story is. And the way they made the camera, where it made it the villain look, he looks like almost like a Grim Goblin. I'm like, seriously, the Green Goblin, literally. Like, it's crazy that they went with that, but it looked very creepy, especially for 2001. So we end up seeing those two go back to their car. They look like they can't get the car to go. It's like then the villain ends up in front of the car on their hood. They said, Trish pretty much says it's stuck in reverse. Darius says, just put it in reverse then. And then they proceed to go in reverse. But they're trying to go forward. But if you could look down the road, it's still there. It's still there, and it won't move. They try to ram it over a couple times, but it ends up doing a backflip and everything like that, and then pretty much jumps over the hood like he like he does acrobatics or something. This thing is smart and everything like that. Then they go for the third time. They actually hit it, and then pretty much Darius says, "Do you think it's dead?" And Trish makes the best thing she could have did. She said the one thing that a lot of people don't say in horror movies, and that's there never are, because a lot of times when somebody thinks that the villain is gone in these horror movies, they never are. You gotta go back and double tap them again, and that's exactly what Trish did. She proceeded to go over and over and over, pretty much running it over. And Derry, just being stupid, just said, stop, that's enough. No, it's not enough. You continue to keep going as long as you need to. And then they stop, and then you could see it's his leg pretty much got ran over and was off. And you could kind of see a little bit of smoke. I was kind of like, what is going on here? That doesn't look very human-esque, if you ask me. And then you see it's laying on its stomach, and then pretty much it's starting to move, and boom, a wing pops out, and we find out that this thing is probably how he's been able to get around as quick. It's not really because of his truck, but because he can fly now. So now this adds a new dynamic that we did not know about up until this point, because we were all thinking that it was because of his truck being very fast. That's how he's been able to get around. But his truck has probably been stored somewhere, and he's been able to fly around very swiftly to get to where he needs to be. So, pretty much, Trish tells Derry, I don't know how long this car is going to last. Derry says, far enough. And then pretty much they get to the police station. They're calling they're talking to their mom, letting them know what's going on, and I guess their mom's pretty much saying, we're gonna come get you, and we're on their way to come get you and everything like that. Then pretty much they're just sitting talking, waiting for time to pass, waiting for their parents to come pick them up. Then we finally see the woman, where is known as Trisha, not Trisha, I forgot her name. It's been so long since I actually seen this movie. Giselle Gay Hartman. Pretty much she pretty much tells, she says, I've been looking for you guys. I've been trying to find you guys. Pretty much trying to tell them what's going on. She says, if you guys could spare me a minute, I came a long way to say this. And then they decide to reluctantly hear her out. She pretty much tells them what's going on and what they're dealing with. Known as an ancient demon called the Creeper, it arises every 23 years for 23 days, and it gets to eat. Pretty much, she's having this dialogue with Derry and Trish, pretty much telling them that this thing is indestructible. It can keep coming back. It eats to rebuild itself, and if it has a scent for something it likes, it's going to keep coming back until it knows which one. And you can see at the same time while she's having this dialogue, the Creeper pulls back up in a truck and is limping into the police station. Then next thing you know, the lights come out, go off, and they have the emergency lights come on. And then they pretty much have one of the police officers go down and to have a police check with all the inmates that are there in attendance. Then we see two inmates. I don't know what they were doing, but they're looking at the police officer very scared like. Then we go over to the next cell where the Creeper looks like he has found a new victim, and he's feasting on their leg to rebuild its other leg and stuff like that. Then they're pretty much telling Trish and Derry, while they get a phone call about this is going on, we're going to put you guys in a private room. And then pretty much Giselle says, you can't do that. He finds you in a room and proceeds to say, repeat some of the lyrics from the Jeepers Creepers song. Then she was saying it's playing on an old phonogram, and she says it's gonna find you, and one of you are going to meet your end, pretty much screaming while that song is playing. Then so pretty much Trish and Derry end up going with Giselle, trying to find a way to escape, but they end up getting met with none other than a exit, but it's locked because of the powers being out. But before that, we see a lot of the police force trying to find wherever it is, and then one of the police officers goes a little bit further than the others, and we knew something was going to happen. And then out of nowhere, while everyone's looking up and the police is looking towards back at the other one, the Creeper comes down and then pretty much literally grabs a hole and pulls the heart out of the officer, and it proceeds to literally go up, while you see the camera and a light going right through this man's chest, which is a very interesting scene to see happen. Then we see those two shoot, but why are you not shooting? You're just shooting at the air. You're not shooting at anything. And then you pretty much have Trish and Derry talking to Giselle once again, pretty much saying, Derry says, you know who it wants, and you know what it wants. And then Derry asks Giselle, who hears Jeepers Creepers while screaming in the dark? And then Giselle looks at Trish, so making an indication that the Creeper wants Trish. So Derry is pretty much saying, well, are your dreams ever wrong? And then the Creeper pretty much proceeds to come out from behind a corner and is proceeding to be on the trail to chase them once again. Giselle says, go, get out of here. And Giselle stands there, standing her ground. She's praying, and then the Creeper comes from behind her, pause, and then proceeds to sniff her, but does not like what he smells. So he proceeds to leave and proceeds to go after Trish and Derry once again. They end up in a room where you have a window where it looks like it's a one-way, so you really can't see from one side of the window. But you have Trish on one side and then the Creeper on the other. Derry's over there by one of the other winners trying to find a way to get out, but he can't. And then boom, the Creeper busts in through the door, and now they're cornered with nowhere to go. So now the Creeper pretty much approaches them, and he's smelling both Trish and Derry to figure out which one he wants and which one he's been trying to find this entire time. Then he makes his decision. It's none other than Derry, which was very interesting because it seemed as if the way they were painting it, it was going to end up being Trish for one split second because Giselle said when she asked who was going to be, when Derry asked Giselle who's going to be, who that thing wants, she looked at Trish. So it made me think that, okay, well, that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to end up getting Trish or whatever the case is. But no, it ends up getting Derry, which made a lot of sense from everything that's happened in the movie. He went down there in the House of Pain. Maybe the Creeper was trying to get rid of evidence so the people wouldn't be on his trail. Maybe the thing is smarter than we may have think and stuff like that. So while the police finally get to where Trish and Derry and the Creeper are, instead of shooting, they just stand there being delusional and do absolutely nothing. Probably one of the worst. I don't understand, why are police so useless in a horror movie? In every movie franchise you think of, they're pretty much useless. They're useless in Jeepers Creepers. They're useless in Halloween. They're useless in Friday the 13th. Like, they're useless. They serve no purpose than to add to the body count. So while they're standing there, Trish is pretty much begging with the Creeper to let Derry go, and she would gladly take his spot and saying that I'm stronger, you want me, I'm smarter, you want me. And it looks like for a split second that the Creeper was going to consider the offer, but to only literally say, nope, I want what I want, and goes out the window. Then the police officers decide to potentially shoot a shot or two. Are we serious? And then pretty much Trish, she must have flew out the window too, or she jumped out the window, and she's running towards where Derry and the Creeper are, but she's too late because the Creeper and has flown off with Derry into the moonlight, and you can kind of see it as well in the scene as well. And now she's very distraught at what she just witnessed. She just witnessed this thing take her brother, and now has to and has nothing to do. She's pretty much given up all hope at that point. She doesn't know what to do. Then in the morning, we see Trish and Giselle having a dialogue, and then pretty much Trish asks Giselle, "Are your dreams ever wrong?" Derry screaming in the dark with that song playing, and then pretty much Giselle says, "If you ask anyone here, they'll tell you." She says, she's a very crazy person. She doesn't know what she's talking about." But you pretty much spoke everything that was gonna happen into existence at that point. So it's like, you're not crazy. You know something. So then we see Trish come out the police station. And everything like that. I guess her people have arrived at the station, everything like that. And then we see a crow pretty much flying over her and look like going off in the distance. And it looks like the Creeper has a new hideout, apparently. It looks like it's an old factory. And we go into the factory, we hear Derry screaming. And then as the camera continues to pan, and the screams are getting more and more, like his screams are getting very higher at this point. And then we hear one final scream. And then we see the Jeepers Creepers song start to play. And we're panning around into the factory a little bit. We see the Creeper look with his wings relaxed, like he's working on something. He has a needle or something like that. And we see him working on something. And we pan in, it's Derry. We're seeing it pan up. The first thing we see is his tattoo, and it's panning up to see what the Creeper did. And he literally gouged this man's eyes out of the socket. But not only that, it's not just a eye hole. He literally sawed off half of Derry's head to where you can actually see through from his eyes to the back of his head. So it looks like what he's going to do, because we know he sews up his bodies. He's probably going to sew on the back of Derry's head back, or potentially, or something like that. That's what I think is going to happen. And then boom, we see Derry with his eyes gouged out of the socket, and the Creeper literally the camera's panning through his eye hole. And then the Creeper literally rises up, and you can see the Creeper with Derry's eyes as the final shot of the movie. And then boom, the movie's over. So one of the few movies where the villain actually survives and the villain actually wins. We don't see that many times in horror movies nowadays where the villain actually gets defeated and stuff like that. A lot of times the villain gets defeated in a lot of these movies. We don't really see the villain actually win and actually prevail over one of the main characters. That is something I enjoyed about seeing that movie actually play out. But let's talk about some of the things that some of the decisions that were made. Specifically Derry. Derry made the first mistake by going back to none other than the Creeper's lair, or House of Pain, or whatever you want to call it. When you are getting ran off the road, and I said it very clearly early in the review, You don't go back after you're getting chased by somebody. If you're getting chased in a horror movie and you see the person's lair or house or whatever the case may be, you don't go back. That is screaming and is a indication of disaster. And then proceeds to look at all the bodies and everything like that. That makes me believe that the creeper wanted there because he's seen too much. That makes me want to wonder those things. He's seen too much. He had to take the person that knew too much and would probably expose his secrets, and then boom. I think that makes the most sense. I think that makes the most sense of what we could potentially be seeing here. But you guys let me know, how do you guys feel about Jeepers Creepers, the original 2001 film, if you guys have seen it. If you guys haven't seen it, like I said earlier in the video, do not watch this video without watching it first. I do not want to spoil you guys. If you guys have not seen it, you guys are missing out on a very B classic style horror movie. So if you guys want to see more horror reviews, let me know what some more movies you guys like to see me review in the future, stuff like that. I'm considering the idea of doing movie reactions. That is something I'm starting to debate. It might be coming very, very soon. Stay tuned, because I might actually start doing movie reviews on my channel. So if you guys are in movie reactions, so if you guys want that, let me know in the comment section down below. Road to 2,000, goal is 10,000 by the end of 2025. Super kick that like button, helps my channel get pushed across the platform so more people can see what I'm doing over here on YouTube. Superman Punch, that post notification bell, so every time posting a video, whether your reaction video, rant video, live stream, any type of video, you could be a loop of things. When I do drop a video, and seriously, the subscribe button takes 3 seconds out of your day to just 3 things for me, helps in the progression of my channel as well. But with that being said, hope everyone has a great day, great rest of the week, have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next video.